I was just mortified at the start because I was like, okay, guys, we're going to broadcast now. And then
I just nearly died. Okay.
So what we might do is when Holly's talking, your stuff is muted.
I'm muted now.
And maybe just turn the volume down.
Yeah.
Like you guys are pretty far apart.
Mm.
The other option, I've got the other office.
I wonder if I can just be over here. It's very echoey. Digital trans. Hello, hello. Too echoey. It might be better if I go into the other office when I'm doing my bit. Because you stay here.
Yeah, because it's literally all you're doing is the intro and the outro. So
yeah.
You go in the other office, do your bit.
Come in, go back out when I'm finishing.
Turn your mic and camera off.
Yeah.
Come back.
Cool.
Or leave your thing there and or something.
Which thing?
Like leave your... I'll be in here with you.
Okay. So I can just sit in this chair. Perfect.
And make sure I'm walking so
yeah. Yeah. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. How's the sound? Thank you very much. Hey, Sarah.
Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Very well.
That's good. We're just getting all the sound set up okay. Was that sound okay, Gem?
that was better. Okay. Nice coordination.
Look at us, neighbour.
I'll just find a good backdrop.
The trend was leopards and digital.
I can change. It's not too late.
I think it's cool. All right, so we're just working out because Holly and Carly are in the office here. So we're just working out sounds and echoes.
Yeah.
And Sarah, what we were just talking about in that whole, because this whole topic is really about what are the trends, that first question after what's your reality been, how are you, let's get the elephant out of the room.
Yeah.
And then moving into a whole, look, we've certainly seen a lot of accelerated transformation this year, but I'm interested to understand what you thought 2020 would be like, and how is that translating into reality. So what are your digital trends that you see this year? I think we just need to be a bit more specific in that first question to ask, what are the trends that you're working to?
That's 1229, screen share, graphic, user notes.
I guess the one for me that's like is related to AI is this hyper personalization. So there's expectation that connection will be no longer bulk and generic, that it will be customer centric and human first, and they're the principles that really AI has developed to, emergent technologies are really conceptualized around to make sure that, even though these are emergent technological trends, I think we're going to look back and call this the human revolution. So the trend or that expectation that, information will be relevant and hyper-personalized, I think that has intensified with COVID as we've all been kind of disconnected, but craving the human connection, more open to advisory than ever before. And so matching up the right data, the right information, the right content with the right people at the right time
to take over the entire
hyper-personalization is, I think, the trend that I've seen accelerated and intensified by COVID.
Perfect. and they were trends that you already had forecast to start the year. So I think if that's how you want to take that first question, that would be brilliant, just to help the listeners really understand what's your thinking on trends for now and coming.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
That. We go into Canva and just do the presentation, and then it removes. Davinia. Hello. How are you?
Well, how are you doing?
Yeah, good, good. We're just figuring out last minute. Last minute things. How's your morning been?
Oh, it's been freezing here in Sydney. I'm shivering in my little office.
Oh no. At least, you know, being on Zoom, you can just have a blanket over your legs or something.
Yeah, I should have done that.
Okay, we have our morning catch-ups, and Kayla always has Benny on her lap, just like you just be chatting to her, and then Benny like sticks his head up. He's a little cavoodle dog, and that's her, yeah. Not a man, a dog. Oh, I'm so jealous. I need a dog for that reason. Which?
It's in there. Just scroll
And then
down.
scroll
It's
down.
like page 18.
Okay.
Well, that's correct. I'll scroll back.
That one. Perfect. Now,
Just looking.
so close. Now present. Present.
So Davinia, while Hull's just working things out, good morning, good afternoon.
Hello.
I was just saying to Sarah, because this topic is really about what are the trends for digital, and that first question that throws to you and Sarah, it gives us that beautiful opportunity to really understand what were the trends that you thought 2020 would bring, and how have you seen them really intensify or shift in recent months. So we cover it off from the very beginning of what is this digital world that we're living in, and what is now being enhanced, inflamed.
Great. Yeah, those questions are great. And are you going to go to one of us first, or is that sort of an open question for either? How you?
So the first question will be, let's just get the elephant out of the room.
Yeah.
And what is the COVID-19 reality for each and every one of you? So everyone in the panel speaks. And out of that, what have you really seen as an opportunity, or what's been your observation? And then we're focusing on trends today. So Davinia, with your pulse across the country with all the businesses you work with, and Sarah at the forefront of defining how an industry redefines itself. What's been your feeling in terms of the trends that you thought 2020 was setting out to address, and how have they shifted in recent months?
Awesome.
And I'll say it to the two of you, so it's not start with me. Like I'll say, Sarah and Davinia, what do you think? And then maybe Sarah start, and then you follow Davinia. So it's natural. So
should I go and put some animal print on? I feel like.
Do you know what? I'm thinking I'm going to go change.
Well, we've
got a jacket. I can put a jacket on, and it's cold, so put it on.
Hi guys, it's Belinda. I'm here. I'm just struggling to get my video. It's not letting me get video for some reason, which is not good.
How are you, Belinda?
Yeah, good.
We've all been watching Tiger King on Netflix.
We're on trend, right? That's the whole conversation.
There we go.
I might leave the meeting and join again and see if something happens, because the video's not working, so I'll be back.
Okay.
IT support. Turn it off. Turn it back on again. See how that goes.
There is an off button for a reason. Hey, Ben.
Hello.
All right. Apologies, I'm back. Carly tried to do something really fancy on the computer and it just decided to like just go to sleep. It was like, no more of that. We're back. How are you, Ben?
Good, thanks.
That's good.
How are you?
Pretty good.
Awesome.
This is my last work deliverable before I log off, and I'm getting married this weekend.
Yay.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's going to go shopping with Mum this afternoon, and have a day getting organised tomorrow, and then Saturday will be all go. Nails, hair, all of it.
Good.
All of the fun. But yeah, we've had really good take up for this event. It's been fantastic. I've been really impressed with the numbers.
Yeah.
We'll just give it a couple more minutes and then we'll go to broadcast.
Awesome.
I'm still struggling with my video. And it worked fine for me yesterday, Belinda here. It just says start a new, go to settings and select another video camera. But I've only got my camera on my laptop.
Sometimes Zoom sort of uses its own software to run the camera and the microphone, and sometimes that can crash.
Right.
So you might have to drop out of the call and try and get back in, and if that still doesn't work, I'd say you probably have to restart. Okay. Quit Zoom, drop out of the call, completely quit Zoom, and then get back in. And if that still doesn't work, you might have to restart your laptop.
I might do a quick restart because I've got time. All right, I'll be back.
Guys,
good.
ready? I might just press broadcast and share the slide of the panel event, okay?
Sure.
So no screaming at your kids if you're at home. Screen. Right, can you guys see that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Perfect.
Don't close it, just move the camera. I'll close that. So I thought you just meant like no.
Goodbye.
That's not necessary.
Can I see here as well? All right, so we heading up to 12:30 now. We've got people logging on. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll just wait a couple more minutes to let more people arrive. It's very very quiet. I guess everyone's preparing their conversations and talking points. We've got Sharon online, Sarah Smith, thanks for joining us. Nicolina, Maria, Kirsten, Kate, Jody, thanks for coming. Emma Croston, thanks for coming as well. Ben, Alex, good to see you all. So we've got about 70 registered today, so I might just give it a couple more minutes. We're coming to QUT today to just make sure we've got good internet. It's been a real struggle to do these webinars at home. It's just everyone's internet so overloaded. We've got more and more people coming online. Hey, Terry. That's good. Nicolina, thanks for coming. We might get started just with the introduction. So my name's Holly Tattersall. I'm the founder of Women in Digital. For those new to the Women in Digital community, welcome. Women in Digital is a community dedicated to connecting, educating and empowering women in the digital industry. And this quarterly panel is no exception. With new technology trends being announced every day, it's easy to end up with a lot of information overload. So we've assembled a panel to decipher what you need to know in 2020. This interactive panel will give you an overview of the latest and most important technology trends, provide you with the opportunity to ask our industry experts your burning questions, and take important insights back to your team. Today's panel won't be moderated by me though. We have the incredible Gemma Alker leading the discussion. So Gemma works in partnerships and engagement in two centres at QUT, the Centre for Future Enterprise and the Centre for the Digital Economy. Gemma also plays a key advisory role on the Women in Digital Advisory panel. With almost 20 years experience in senior leadership roles within universities, ASX-listed companies, startups and not-for-profit, Gemma is absolutely the perfect woman to take the lead today. With that, I'd like to hand over to you, Gemma. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you, Holly. And hello, everybody, and welcome for this lunchtime webinar with the Women in Digital community. I'd like to start by acknowledging the Turrbal and Yagara people as the First Nations owners of the lands where QUT now stands. We pay respect to their elders, laws, customs and creation spirits. We recognise that these lands have always been places of teaching, research and learning. QUT acknowledges the important role Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people play within the QUT and broader community. Thank you for that gorgeous introduction, Holly. As Holly said, my name is Gemma and I'm today's moderator. And welcome to each and every one of you who have dialed in to be a part of today's webinar talking about 2020 digital trends. What a big topic. We could spend all day having a conversation and exploring each and every part of what the digital trends of 2020 are, but we've got 1 hour, so we're going to get straight into it. And we have the most fantastic panel of digital leaders joining this conversation who will absolutely excite you, entice you, and delight you with all of their wisdom and a couple of experiences that they have had that they're going to share in the day. So it's with delight that I welcome our fabulous panel, starting with Davinia Simon, Head of Partner Success for ANZ for AWS. Davinia is a customer-obsessed leader who understands the importance of client relationships, competitive differentiation and growth. Davinia works with forward-thinking Australian companies to drive transformative innovation on the AWS cloud. We also have Sarah Bell, co-founder of Rita by Get Aire. Commentator, agitator and innovator, Sarah Bell is a co-founder of the PropTech startup Aire, Artificial Intelligence for Real Estate. Sarah is also mum to 3, almost 4, I'm intrigued to know more, human children and a clever little robot named Rita. And we have Dr. Ben Kraal, Director of Experience Design at Symplicit. Ben is a customer-led innovation consultancy. Ben's background spans computer science, sociology and design, and he's currently reading way too many books. We also have a 4th panelist who will be joining us in the beautiful space of technology and all of its reliability and not. Belinda Breakspear. Belinda will join us when she can. She is an absolute powerhouse in the legal sector, leading the IP practice at McCullough Robertson. Belinda assists a broad range of clients from startup businesses to major publicly listed companies, and we will welcome her when she joins. But let's get started. And let's get the elephant out of the room, because there is not a conversation that goes by that doesn't mention the C words. So let's just start with, how has COVID-19 been for you? What has been your reality and observations? Sarah, let's kick it off.
Yeah, I think you know, we've chatted previously about what impact COVID-19 would have on digital literacy, and that's one of those phrases that I always love because I think it's so funny. I think it's like digital strategy or digital marketing, that it's totally relevant in 2020 because you don't have digital literacy now. You need literacy for a digital world. And I think that when we look at the struggles or the roadblocks that have occurred with change management and digital transformation in businesses and enterprise all across Australia, you know, the fastest way to get someone to change is to force them to do it. And so I don't think CEOs and CTOs have been leading digital transformation in Australia anything like COVID has, because it's forced us all to kind of really get onto the same page in terms of digital transformation and adapting and adopting these tools that exist to help us all stay connected, which is the opportunity that exists in the digital world.
Very good. Digital literacy is certainly one of those spotlights that's been shone on every single person in the last couple of months. And what about you, Davinia? How has the reality of the last couple of months been for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think undoubtedly COVID-19's had a huge impact, right, on the way that we're living generally, but certainly on the way that we're working. And at AWS, we've seen just a tremendous reliance on cloud, as you can imagine, because organizations need to set up the tools and services to keep people working from home and to keep people productive. So undoubtedly, we've seen, and maybe you could argue it's digital literacy, we've seen that increase quite dramatically within the commercial sector for sure. I think probably one of the biggest surprises for me, Gemma, is around the innovation that we've seen. We've certainly seen a rapid rate around innovation. We've seen a tremendous amount of companies of all sizes, not just the large enterprises, but we've seen a very a lot of nimble, fast-moving, small Australian businesses that are pivoting their business models and innovating at speed and actually developing new ways of working, not just for themselves, but probably for the broader community around them. And we've seen some fantastic examples of that at AWS.
Fabulous. I'm looking forward to diving into some of those examples. Welcome, Belinda.
Thank you. Apologies, slight technical failure there, but this is COVID, right? This is what happens.
Exactly. So we have launched into the conversation. We did share your intro at the beginning.
Thank you.
We're just speaking into the reality of how has COVID been for you. So let's hear from you as in terms of obviously a few tech hiccups as we've all navigated, but what else has been your reality of late?
Yeah, look, so I'm in a large commercial law firm, and we've seen some, I guess, some really interesting changes. So we were very lucky to have a lot of good IT systems already in place. It was probably fair to say we had, you know, some quite tech-savvy people that adopted early, others not so much. And what COVID has really done is accelerated our workforce to jump on board and really embrace technology. So it's really pushed us to do things really quickly and innovate quickly. And I guess on the client side of things as well, you know, we've got some tech and digital clients that are really in hot demand at the moment. And I think, as Davinia was saying, we've seen them pivot their businesses to think of ways they can do things differently, and it's been really exciting to see. So looking at how businesses can really reimagine based on the crazy situation that we're in.
Fantastic. And Ben, how has it been for you?
Well, because we play in the digital space all the time, and because Symplicit, especially in Brisbane, has always had a sort of very flexible approach to location. For me and my team, one of the surprising things has been how unsurprising the transition has been. So it's been really easy for us to just continue working for clients we've worked for before, doing the work we've done before, making more use of the digital tools we'd used up until now. But the work still looks the same from our point of view, and we're still able to deliver the same sort of value to our clients. And our clients have managed pretty well as well, mostly I think because we're also dealing with the more digitally savvy people in organizations who we work for. So the things that we've struggled with, or the things that we've had to explain to clients, is like where we would ordinarily have had an in-person meeting, it's completely possible to do that all online. Or where we would have had 15 people in a room playing with Post-it notes for 4 hours, we can do all that online with these other tools that we've used before internally, and now we're sort of making that available to clients or to their customers as well as us using those tools. So it's been pretty good. We do have a lot of space in the CBD that we're itching to get back to though. So.
Yes, so there's a connection there with Sarah in terms of real estate. But it does sound like the acceleration by being forced to actually pivot has been an advantage across the board, from the traditional law firm through to a digital native business to a global enterprise that's distributed in all teams. So that's a really interesting sort of point to delve into, because we're talking about digital trends. So Davinia, what did 2020, take yourself back 5 months, and what did you think 2020 would look like in terms of the digital trends? And how have you seen those digital trends shift in recent weeks?
It's a great question. And actually, if I reflect probably towards the end of last year, probably one of the big trends that we were seeing a lot of organizations focus on was delivering really differentiated customer experiences, and doing so through a really connected way. So a lot of that was formed on the basis of data. So what do I know about my customer? What are the various signals that they're sending me? How do I listen and interpret those signals? And then how do I have the kind of systems and technologies in place that I can respond to those requirements, and then provide this kind of what I would call like a really personalized, sort of frictionless experience that traverse all different touch points for a consumer. Now, that was where we saw a lot of organizations focus their energies at the end of last year. And I would have said 5 months ago, that's exactly, what we were forecasting for 2020, a big focus on data and a huge focus continued in customer experience. Now, if I think about what's happened with COVID, I think those trends persist for sure. I don't think there's any change there. I think if anything, and you talked about acceleration before, that's the key word I think here, is that all we're seeing now is that organizations are saying, okay, let's just accelerate that further. And probably what we're seeing are organizations leaning more into AI or ML as a way of transforming their business. And I've got a nice example I thought I'd share with you on this one, because to put it into context, COVID has had a huge impact on all organizations and thinking about how do they adapt in this new world. And really great example with Millennium Automation, which you may or may not be familiar with. They specialize in sort of self-service kiosk and touchless technology kind of systems. And their focus was very much around helping people with maybe mobility challenges to check in. And that check-in could be in an airport or in a hotel, or crikey, it could even be in an aged care home. Now, you can imagine in the current state, people don't necessarily want to touch kiosks or touch screens anymore. So that's an organization that are thinking, okay, well, how do we lean on AI or ML, and how do we start looking at facial recognition or voice analysis so that we can recognize people, and we can use voice to maybe process requests in such a way that they don't necessarily need to touch a device. And they have adapted and pivoted to that requirement very successfully. And again, thanks to the power of cloud, they've been able to adjust. And I think that's a really great example of an acceleration around that trend. Not only are they developing a great customer experience, but they're leveraging the great services around AI that are available today to do that quickly.
Very good. And I think the key word you said there is frictionless. So forced into this amplified urgency of how do we think differently. And there's no other industry that comes to mind, Sarah, that has also pivoted astronomically different than the real estate industry, and how they've been able to continue to conduct inspections and online auctions. what about you? Where did you start 2020 and the digital trends that you forecast, and how is that tracking for you in your world?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So we make an artificial intelligence product for real estate agents, and that is an industry that is, you know, definitely geographically bound, and I can't see that face-to-face contact ever being able to be replaced by, like, disrupted by a digital platform. You know, and so watching the industry pivot and adapt to things like online auction tools and stuff. My husband's an auctioneer. We've had auctions frequently called from our back deck and lounge room through COVID, has been an example of that adaptation. But what I think, if I go back to the beginning of the year and I looked at, I guess, communication between those service providers and their clients, you know, certainly the trend that we predicted was smarter digital. So, you know, even as we're sitting here, my inbox is filling up with emails from every company that I've ever given my email address to with their COVID plan. And I think, like customers, you know, I've worked out and customers have worked out that bulk email is not your friend. Like, brands are not your friend. And so when I talk about smarter digital, the trend that I'm really emphasizing here is the hyper-personalization of information, and using data and the processing power of artificial intelligence and machine learning. What hyper-personalization and smarter digital is really about is the alignment of the right information or the right content through the right channels to the right person at the right time for the right reason. And when you start to look at how you scale that type of individualized service across a multitude of customer journeys in a complex service industry like real estate, it's something that humans can't sort of cognitively manage, because there's so much variation to compute at scale. So that's where I think this smarter digital trend has intensified in AI, because that kind of broadcast noise has become so noisy, and the need for, you know, really personalized advisory, individualized attention, and to be seen as a person, not a piece of data, is actually the human first outcome or end game of emergent technology like artificial intelligence. So this smarter digital, get rid of the bulk broadcast stuff and move to hyper personalization. I think that's where customers' expectations are now. And I think we've seen with COVID and the noise that's been created with the flood of content about COVID and everything else, you know, related to COVID, has really intensified the need for that skill of interpretation and judgment and application and individualization of service to cut through and be signal amid that noise. Smarter digital is I think the trend.
Smarter digital, frictionless pivoting, innovations. There's some new ways of thinking what we can do with these digital trends and how we can actually get on the front foot. And Belinda, working in a completely traditional industry, such as a law firm, where I dare say that the pivot has been incredibly real for partners who are using Zoom for the first time, that you were sharing with me, all the way through to continuing to offer that personalised service that is the law. Your specialty in IP and in data security. I'm interested to understand, like, what you saw the trends to be at the outset and how you're leveraging this time that we've all just lived through to maximise those trends coming to life for you in your world.
Yeah, look, I think the word's been mentioned a few times, data. That was, you know, it was going to be the big trend of this year moving into next year. It has been for a while, but again, as we use the same keywords, it's been accelerated. So everyone is now, you know, there's so much more data going around. There's people working from home. Businesses need to really be looking at privacy and data and getting savvy in those areas. So a really big part of our practice now is in advising clients in that space. So it's thinking about, you know, what devices your staff are using, what are they plugging into your existing systems, and then also what risks do you need to look at in your businesses to do with where data is being sent and how it's being managed. So one of the, I guess, unfortunate trends at the moment is there's a lot of cyber risk around at the moment. There's been a unfortunate increase in that space, but it's an area that we just need to be mindful of, and there'll be a bit more of a trend in that space, I guess, is where we're moving forward. Practical things businesses can do are just, you know, teaching your staff and getting savvy in that space. But I guess in terms of the IP as well, you know, 3D printing, AI, there's some really exciting trends, again, that were always there, but there will be that increased acceleration. So there's some really great clients out there, really great businesses. So I think we'll see a lot of investment in technology companies, which is really exciting. So watch this space. It's a great area to be in. Very good.
And one of the other parts that you mentioned that is intriguing is terms and conditions for robots and the pivoting. Do you want to explain a little bit about what you mean there?
Yeah, I guess so as businesses are creating new things, and don't forget you need your terms and conditions around that. So, you know, how are you dealing with suppliers? How are you managing risks? So there's a lot of businesses going full steam ahead. So just something to check your house is in order there. You know, robots is a really exciting space. So again, will probably be accelerated. You know, drones were always there and around. So, you know, applications in various industries. So some really exciting things going on, but it's all about risk management, I guess, at the moment, and just being careful, given there's a bit of a heightened risk with some of these technologies with early adoption.
And I think that's a really good point, that early adoption, as more digital trends become a lot more widespread and permeated across all of our organisations and how we function, that one of the ways to shift in our thinking about digital trends is this is business. So as a trend comes in, how do you apply all of the functionalities and thinking of how do we apply this in our business, in our teams, in our skills, to really take that particular technology advancement forward for the benefit of the organisation. Ben, I know that you are a trusted advisor across the nation at the moment with all of your clients, as they have had to adopt some of these ways of working that, as you've said, you're an old hat at, being a digital native organisation. So how do we take these advancing trends, digital trends, and permeate them into the organisation culturally and through resources?
Well, I think you have to see that even though it seems like the future is here, it's not evenly distributed across the organisation and across everyone who's in the organisation. And so I'm fine here on my mesh Wi-Fi network with fibre into the wall at the other end of the house. It's really easy to take that for granted when we might be doing interviews with a client's customer who has ADSL1 connection on an old, slow laptop, and we're asking them, how would you engage with our client digitally? And they're like, I can't, the website doesn't load. And so you have to look at the way that we assume digital delivers services can be different for everyone. And sometimes a great service delivery is just that you can complete the task at hand. And I think if you don't approach service delivery looking at how can the organization you're working for, or your enterprise, meet everyone's needs rather than just what seems to be the need that you understand the most. That's probably the best thing to try and do. And the same way as like, I'm very happy here working at home. I've got the door closed. My family are out there having lunch right now. But plenty of people don't have a space that they can work in at home, or can't work in quietly at home, or can't isolate themselves off from their kids. My kids are early high school, so they're self-contained for 4 hours a day until it's lunchtime. But if you have primary school age kids, they need supervision all the time. And so organizations that have sort of just shown up in your house and go, this is our office now as well. There has to be some give and take there around those expectations and how they get met. So every organization is going to be different in terms of what has to happen culturally and technically and socially to make these changes work before they can even stick. So I don't think there's one size fits all answer.
No, there's not. And I think that's a beautiful one to open to the actual panel, because we've got such a variation of organisational sizes and experiences. How are we finding that the organisations are taking leadership roles in helping these digital trends be adopted and addressing those skills gaps, as Ben eloquently puts, that exist amongst our colleagues and our clients and our partners? Belinda, what are you seeing in terms of culture change?
Yeah, look, I think the culture change has been really positive. You know, we were probably not before getting to know each other on the really deep level that the technology has enabled us to. So, you know, we have met all each other's children. We've met everyone's pets. I know we probably thought it would be difficult to lead teams remotely, but I think we've found that it's maybe easier than what we thought. So culturally, you know, my particular practice, we've got lawyers in Sydney and in Brisbane. I think we're probably closer as a team than we've ever been. And we say, you know, let your children walk through the background. You know, show us your pets. And I think that's been really, really positive. So culturally, I think it's brought us together, and our clients have embraced it as well too. You see each other in a more relaxed environment, which I think is good for everyone. So I see a lot of positives from it, particularly, I guess, too, as a working mother with you know, primary school age children. It's got a lot of benefits. So I'm excited to see where it will take us as a future working environment.
And it's not to be underestimated the fact that digital has enabled us to continue in some level of resemblance of work. Yep, recognising it has not been normal. And each and every one of us has got a war story, but also a high five story to share. But Davinia, you've got insight to so many organisations from micro and SME all the way across to large corporates. What are you seeing in terms of these digital trends, and how can this accelerated transformation be helping culturally for wider adoption?
And we've seen something incredible happening within, particularly in our enterprise area, where we've got large organizations where there is such an executive buy-in around how do we increase the skills and enablement of our people, particularly around technology. And so a good example of that, ANZ Bank recently recognizing there was a large interest of employees to upskill and enable themselves while working from home. They rolled out an initiative to upskill and enable 2,000 of their employees in cloud. And so that's running AWS certifications virtually. They had so much interest that they filled over, I think, 1,100 registrations in the first drop. So I think what we're seeing certainly is that maybe because of COVID-19, there's certainly more executives within large enterprises with a spotlight on technology. How do we enable our people? How do we ensure that staff productivity is not just maintained throughout this period, but how do we also optimize the work that they're doing? And is there one opportunity to take advantage? And we've seen other organizations also pivot around training and enablement in technology. And I think that's really great to see. I think it's a phenomenal opportunity that organisations are taking advantage of, and we'll see the benefits of that for years and years to come. So it's certainly a good news story.
The optimising and enabling, and the sort of the knowledge sharing, and almost the, dare I say, vulnerability, which is not necessarily a word you would put in the digital trends, because as Ben was saying, we should not assume that everybody is at the forefront and at the edge where each and every one of you are. But how can we at least put our hand out and reach back or reach sideways to bring somebody along? And how are you doing it, Sarah? I know that you and I share a love for digital literacy. How are you helping people who do not see themselves as tech savvy, or even anywhere near needing to have a digital business? How are you helping them to understand that AI is the future for real estate?
And I think one of the really cool things about AI is that you can break up with not being a tech person, because it's like AI shouldn't be a tool that you use. It's not particularly geared or suited to being something that you've got to do a lot of learning and clicking buttons with, you know, very structured rules, and it's not kind of binary. Like the great applications of AI are, you know, about unstructured data, and AI to me should, because it is designed to mimic human intelligence, it shouldn't feel like a tool that you've got to learn and use. AI should feel like a colleague. It should feel like something that you work with rather than on, and that, you know, a lot of the stuff that gets in the way of digital literacy, like the irrelevant button clicking, learning robot kind of stuff that we make humans do traditionally through software, that can all be automated. And so what AI does is it kind of lifts that burden of, you know, using software. And really, when you're working with AI, it can feel quite collaborative. And so if what is being put in front of you from AI is a prediction or a suggestion for your human activity, then not only do you not have to worry about learning, you know, to process the neural network that's generated that prediction, but what you can actually do then is just concentrate on where your time is most valuable, and that's executing the human aspect of your work, that part that AI can't do. And so in our industry, it's kind of executing that empathetic, nurturing human service factor. But you're doing that from a more informed position. So it's easier and it's quicker, and you're in the right place at the right time for the right reason with the right person. So in terms of, like, you know, kind of, I'm not a tech person and all the rest of it. I've got, you know, I've got kind of 70-year-olds that use our product, that love it because it feels like they've just had a magical fairy come in overnight and organize all their data, and they just kind of have a list of people to call and something to talk to them about, and they find that part easy. But you put them in front of, you know, a CRM system where their data is, and they've got to do advanced queries on the last date data was modified, and then cross-reference that manually against, you know, activity from the marketplace, and they've got fractured data all over the place. So then trying to kind of digitally synthesize all of that, it's, you know, I don't think you could even force that to happen. So AI has kind of done a lot of that transformation work for you. And I think even though, you know, when we look at machine learning and look at artificial intelligence, it's this fantastic technological revolution that is lifting so many of the limits that exist in our businesses that we don't even realize are there because of the technical limitations of the technology that was implemented when we implemented it. I think it just kind of frees humans up to do human work, and that's leverage, right? That is using your most valuable skills and work for the most valuable application, and just having something else that's scalable and affordable to do all of that stuff that you don't really need to do.
I love it. I actually think to put that into a tweet, I feel like one of your digital trends going forward with 2020 and beyond will be that AI is my friend. Simple, full stop. An outsourced colleague that we all need and need to see the benefits of.
We got carried away with that. We've given our AI a name. My job title is Rita's mum. and we, you know, at some point we forgot that she wasn't a person, and our customers did too. So that's delightful. But I think that's the relationship that we might have with technology moving forward.
Very the blended version. I would love to actually explore that a little bit further as well. But we do have the Q&A. So for everybody who is listening, please do put your questions there. We will turn over the panel to you in a couple of minutes for some questions. But before we do get there, I'm really keen to understand, okay, we have dived into the idea of digital is good for the four of us, for the four of you. Hearing your stories, it's a benefit, it's an opportunity. It has helped your organizations. It has helped and enlightened your customers and your partners. What does 2020 and beyond look like? As we really do focus on what are digital trends, what does next look like? Ben, what do you think is coming our way?
So I think as you said, the four of us, we're right at that sort of forefront of that adoption curve and the industries that many of us deal with. But in the sort of work that we do, our clients are often organizations that aren't that far up the curve, and that's why they've come to us for some help or some advice. And so I think some organizations, like Sarah was talking about, are completely ready to adopt AI as a co-worker. And some organizations that we work with have not even thought about what it means to collect data on their customers at all.
Yeah,
and then to use that to inform how they think about their customers. And so I think for us, if you look at UX, like trends about like what's coming, UX, design thinking is always up there. There's lots of organizations that I have heard about that for the first time this year.
Okay.
And so a lot of organizations are actually going to be running to catch up rather than being in a position to take advantage of the change. The change is going to start happening to them, and they might be forced into changing their business model, changing how they understand themselves, changing how they work internally in an even more accelerated way. Or if they're big organizations with really heavy overhead and governance, they might either get left behind, or if you've got a monopoly or you're the government, expectations will change around you. And so dissatisfaction will rise as those kind of organizations can't keep up with the expectations that people are being given by the awesome experiences that some organizations are able to give them. And so I think that's going to be a trend. We're going to see this almost bifurcation in the quality of experience that you can get on one hand, and you're still going to get poor experiences somewhere else because not everyone's been able to keep up.
So it could even be that a digital trend is actually helping those laggards to move along the transformation line a bit. Good for your business, that's for sure. Hey?
So?
Good for your business, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And Davinia, what about you? What do you see coming now that we're at this point, recognizing that there is a whole spectrum of where people are on the journey? What's next in your world?
Yeah, it's a big question, and I feel like I can give you a couple of themes that I'm forecasting, and I think to Ben's point, with the spotlight on those kind of experiences that can or can't be delivered, I think, and also the way that we're working, I certainly feel like there'll be a strengthened focus on the type of infrastructure that can support us digitally at the moment. I think we'll certainly see an increased focus on cloud. I would expect that more and more organizations now are thinking, okay, well, we need the agility to pivot quickly, depending on what's happening outside, such as COVID. And so we've already seen an uptick in many of our services to support people working from home remotely. I would anticipate there'll be a strengthened and continued focus on cloud technology. I certainly feel like with that comes, what are we seeing in terms of, industry trends? And I'm seeing some really interesting work happening in healthcare. So I guess if there was one area to look at, I'm seeing some really interesting innovation take place in the healthcare sector, particularly with the impact of COVID. You can imagine that historically, you know, when we've been sick, we get up and we go to the doctor, obviously, because we're not feeling well, and the doctor might give us a prescription and we go and we fulfill that at the pharmacy and we go home and the job done. And obviously with the impact of COVID, that is not recommended. You know, it is recommended largely to stay at home if you feel sick. And I feel like, you know, at the start of COVID, GPs probably didn't really have the ability to deliver consultations digitally. We actually saw some really great work happening in New Zealand. There's a great company called Well Revolution who actually were able to develop very quickly with the help of AWS an app so that you could get a GP consultation delivered online, which is phenomenal. So you didn't have to leave your own home. But beyond that, you could also get 24/7 access to a doctor. And there are even things like prescription delivery services embedded in that experience. And I think to myself, well, that's incredible what we're seeing there. And I think healthcare is just one area where we'll start to see those services transforming, and we'll start to see more and more services being delivered remotely and digitally. And I think that is an interesting trend for us to keep an eye on.
Absolutely. The remote delivery and the fact that it's virtual first almost, as opposed to virtual as the alternative, and being face to face could potentially become that only if we really need to in an extreme. What about you, Belinda, in terms of from a what's coming, what's next? Well, I'm keen to sort of put a bit of a leadership lens on it. And what does it mean for leaders in the organisation? What does the digital trends need to move towards for organisations?
Yeah, look, I think on the leadership side of things, it's just continuing to embrace what we've seen and almost seeing it as a gift and rolling with it and not going back to the old ways. So I think we've seen businesses run really productively and efficiently. So I think we need to embrace that across businesses. And lead that this is the new way and it can be done this way. Yeah. So I think that's important. And I just wanted to pick up on some of the points Davinia raised as well too. I think in key trends, you know, continue to be in that data and privacy area, particularly in that medical space, you know, with telehealth, with more information, sensitive information going, you know, going into the cloud, going from business to business, being on telehealth. There's going to be a real trend, I guess, on the legal side of things as how do we grapple with that and how do we deal with that information? So that's kind of the legal trend that we will see from that.
Very good. Well, we've got a question that's come in from Terry Webber from Cisco. Hello, Terry. So Terry is asking the panel, so Sarah, we'll start with you and then please jump in, everybody. What are some strategies to maintain culture in a work from home environment? Can AI play a role? Can we all have Rita in our lounge room?
Do you know, I want Rita for homeschool. I'm here to just take care of that. Look, in terms of, you know, I always view that any organization, your primary client is the people that work there, right? So in terms of what the objectives of the organization or the entity are, I think you provide a service to the employees that work there. And so certainly AI has a role in delivering those services, whether they're technical or cultural or, you know, legal, for example. And, you know, I work with one of my clients has an adjunct business. They have a call center and they make heaps and heaps and heaps of calls on behalf of other real estate agencies, outbound kind of prospecting and customer care calls and things like that. And they've all been working from home. And there's a software, there's a couple of pieces of software that do this. One's called Cogito and the other one's called Gong. G-O-N-G, and it does voice analysis of phone calls and will create kind of sentiment scoring and give both the caller and their supervisor kind of real-time feedback as to how that call's going. And they might suggest, proactively suggest to the customer service representative information that they could share with the customer. It's a little bit like the parliamentary debate worm, like, oh, you've lost them, you can bring them back up kind of thing. And so that kind of like real-time sentiment gathering is something that you can really do, as particularly with, unstructured data like language. It's a great application of it. But I think in terms of like culture, maintaining corporate culture, like anything, it's just a bit of pivot to what you do online. And in my organization, we've got these fantastic, I love my team. I miss them terribly. I miss hugging them. I miss being hugged. But we have this thing where we eat lunch together every single day. Whoever's in Brisbane, whoever's in the office. Well, we do it practically. Like when we were all working, that was a thing. You'd walk to Woolworths, or we have this like roulette that application app on our phones. It decides where we're eating lunch. So we'd all go get lunch and we'd eat it together. And now we just do that virtually. We call it lunch club. Everyone like takes their laptops down to the kitchen. You see people like buttering toast and stuff like that. And we of course we talk about work sometimes, and we solve client problems and things while we're there. But it really has just been about, well, what are we doing offline that we can just creatively execute online? And I actually think that's all that digital is. I think social media is just the stuff you used to sort of say to people on the high street when you saw them, and so I think AI has a role to play. But I just think, leadership and creativity about how you're going to execute things in a digital space is really the key to maintaining culture when we're all separated.
Interesting. And what about you, Davinia or Ben? Like, what have you seen to keep your cultures in your teams going?
Well, we've done. Go, Davinia.
No, Ben, please, you go.
We've done like lunch club, or we've done Friday drinks on Zoom, where you get walked around people's houses and their kids pop in, or the dog pops in, or things like that. In our clients, sometimes I think that's been more of a struggle for them to maintain that, where they're so used to being co-located, where it's so easy for people who work in a more open plan sort of office to sort of pop their head up and go, hey, where's this thing? And I know my wife just gets inundated in emails that are less than a phone call. It's just, hey, this is a thing, and there's just like chat happening in email rather than it being through a tool that's for chat, like Slack or WhatsApp or something else that you can carve that sort of back channel out. So I think for a lot of organizations, they might have found that their culture is so closely tied to the physical environment that they worked in, that they really struggled to, I think that's where this question's come from, they really struggled to keep that culture.
Almost a mourning the physical.
Yeah, with my sociologist hat on, I always go, well, is that a good culture? Is that a culture you want to keep anyway? And I think some organizations are going to find that when they go back, there's going to be a resistance to that old way of working. People are going to prefer the way they figured out to work now. I think that's actually the challenge, rather than maintaining the culture that was. It's going to be reintegrating new practices into the existing culture. And some organizations are going to find that easier, and some organizations are going to find that really hard.
I think that's a great point, that the culture of organizations, and now that we've all had these experiences, are going to absolutely influence where the support for digital trends are and the adoption of those trends. Davinia, you were going to say something as well in terms of what you've seen culturally in AWS.
I certainly think it's on everyone's mind, and there's just a lot going on in that space, because everybody is so keen on continuing to invest in a great culture. I certainly feel as though it's also, there's no such thing as like a sort of one size fits all, and so we also have to be really mindful that everyone's home life is so different, and so what maybe worked in the physical sense, as Ben said, was that there was always a place where you were segregated from the family, and in many senses it was probably easier to attach yourself to that culture. In the home, it can be quite difficult to maintain the culture and bring your family in if there's sort of happy hour calls happening at home, or in some cases we have, you know, team members that aren't always in environments, like you said, that can be segregated from their family. So it's challenging without doubt, but something I have seen that works very effectively is when small cohorts are coming together to enjoy the time of something that really they share in common with one another. So you know, if there's little groups of people that we have a cycling group as an example, they get together almost daily, and they're all just absolute mad cyclists, and they do a sort of a peloton together, and there's a lot of competitiveness that happens, but they're syncing up on a daily basis and then setting challenges around that. So we've seen a big probably increase in sort of well-being and mindfulness sort of activities, and that's helping to drive good culture as well, if that helps.
Very good, thank you. We've got a couple of questions coming in, and so Sarah Smith has asked, the team dynamics doesn't seem like a digital challenge, but COVID-19 has certainly made it one, as we're talking about culture and teams. And some companies are looking at going back to the way things were. So her question is, how do I choose options going forward that instead embrace that challenge and the new norm? And I think Ben and Davinia, you both said that there will be things that we want to actually keep as we go into this new post-COVID world. So Belinda, from a traditional organisation, it could be assumed that there will be a lot that reverts. What would you say to Sarah in terms of how does she choose the options for going forward?
Look, I think you've just really got to look at what's worked well for you during this time, and depending on where you sit in the organisation, you know, raise that. I think as I said, we've seen that, you know, maybe, you know, we always had people working from home, that always happened, but it wasn't broad across the firm. But I think we have realised, you know, the proof's in the pudding that we can do it. So it's really just raising that, working out what works well, and making a case for that to happen for you, continuing. I think if it works for you and your family and the business, then it's certainly something to move forward with.
Mm-hmm. Very good. And Ben, I'm sure that you're giving a lot of advice to clients in terms of what parts to take forward, or having them actually experience it almost like a pilot to say, here's the proof that it's actually way easier than you thought it was. So some of the challenge is perhaps fear and perception.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, for example, one of the things that we often do for clients is we talk to their customers for them about, like, you know, they're going to change some digital aspect of how they talk to offer service to their customers. We'll go and talk to their customers to understand how they experience that at the moment. And we would usually try and do that in person, and obviously we can't. And we've actually found there's benefits to not doing it in person. Like, you obviously lose something, but things that you gain are that we don't necessarily have everyone to be in Brisbane. So now we can do interviews around the country for national organisations. Now, if we have a prototype to test, sometimes it's hard to see over someone's shoulder on a laptop. Now we can have that full screen and record that on our machine as someone else uses it 4,000 kilometres away. And so one of the challenges for us has just been convincing clients that that's okay. Like, what? You won't be in the same room with them. It's like, that's cool. You're asking them about a website. People will manage. And then just the logistics around that is a little bit new. But for my team, once they've done it a couple of times, it just becomes old hat, and it just becomes the way of working. And some of them have actually said to me, like, I don't want to go back to doing this kind of research in person. It's easier, it's better, and we get more access to the things that we care about when we do it in this mediated way.
Very good.
And so, yeah, finding those things where it actually has been beneficial is the thing that's going to be what to take forward. And where there's challenges from being remote, you go, okay, that didn't work. Let's go back to face-to-face.
And it's that sort of trial and error, testing, iterating, pivoting. Sarah, I saw you nodding your head in terms of give them a little taste, let them get a little bit confident and move forward. And from someone who was in the real world of real estate to where you are now in terms of code and AI for that industry. How would you recommend that some of our listeners on the line today use this time and start to think, how can they benefit themselves by recognizing and knowing what digital trends are out there and fueling themselves for the waves that will come?
Yeah, I think it's a real opportunity to, audit the tech stack that you've got in your business, because ultimately the service design that you deliver in 2020 will be dictated by the elements of your technology stack. So the programs and the applications that you choose to use will ultimately be the experience that your clients have of you. And actually a lot of our clients has been really interesting, when this first hit. We had businesses that revenue was, dropped 90% overnight, and then other businesses that were okay because they had managed to adapt or were in different states with different restrictions and things like that. But that exercise of like going through the credit card bill and like working out what subscription this is or what does it do and how does that fit in, I think it's actually in that kind of like cost audit, it's actually inadvertently given everybody the ability to do a tech and service audit as well. What do we really need? And that then it kind of moves, instead of just like adopting technology because it's shiny and cool and it does one niche thing, people are starting to look at what value does this add to the ecosystem of my business? What value is this adding to the service design that I'm seeking to provide? Do I have a native feature in an application that's a core product that means that I can actually just learn how to use that and drop off this other niche thing, because that data is not being shared and it kind of fractures the customer experience that I can deliver anyway. So I think in terms of like an opportunity, there's certainly an opportunity to audit the service design through the technology stack with the flow and benefit of that cost audit anyway. But it was interesting before, Davinia, when you were talking about telehealth, and Ben, you've talked about like customers being franchised. So I'm about halfway through my 4th pregnancy at the moment, and I'm lucky I know what I'm doing by now. But I haven't seen a doctor yet. All of my appointments have been, because the last place you want to be if you're pregnant during COVID is a hospital where sick people are, by the way. So all of my appointments have been telehealth. I've got a blood pressure machine, so I like take my blood pressure with the nurse watching, and under great mortification go off and weigh myself and report that back to the nurse. And I've got the little Doppler, so yes, the heartbeat can hear that, check that. And we're doing all of this, and comparing that to my other 3 pregnancies where I just sort of rocked up as a passenger and people sort of did these things to me and like green tick, red tick, whatever it was, I feel like more empowered and more enfranchised because of the way that this digital transformation in my medical and innate care has forced me to participate and advocate in my pregnancy, in my healthcare. And so I think this has got the potential to be a very empowering experience for people who might have been frightened of technology or didn't have the time to kind of pull the stack apart and put it back together. And I really hope that people don't waste this opportunity. And if you were a bit afraid of tech or wanted to give yourself a Luddite label, just remember that all the Luddites did was break their stuff. Technology happened, and it will happen to you. So use this as that opportunity to kind of drill down and become empowered and, kind of fall in love with what tech can do for you and how kind it can be. And I love that word kind with technology, because it's designed to make our lives easier. So if it's not, you need to strategically have a look at why you're using it.
It's not something to fear, and in those that avoided it have now tasted some of the benefits that it's offering. We're not going to get to one of the questions from Brooke, but Brooke, we will follow up with you offline. So please know that we will get there. It's around security, but I'm recognizing that it is a power of hour, or hour of power rather, and we're almost at time. And so just really quickly, I'd love to hear from the panel in a tweet, if we can. What would be your advice to the women in digital community and those on the line today? How can they maximize personally the next 6 months? to benefit from the digital trends that we've talked about today. So Davinia, Belinda, Ben and Sarah, if we go in that order, and if you want to give us your tweet.
My tweet would be reframe the tension. Challenging experiences are learning opportunities that really will build resilience, and it's resilience that's a critical factor to drive innovation.
Perfect. Belinda?
Yeah, look, I would say embrace the change. I said before, see it as a gift, and don't go back to the old ways. Move forward and embrace it.
Thank you. Ben?
I'd say identify your transferable skills so that you can find things that have worked for you that you can bring into the new, more digital way of working.
Brilliant. Sarah?
I would just, I kind of hit my quota of sound bites. So I'm probably just going to repeat, like, fall in love with what technology can do to make your life easier, and have a look at all of the tech that you use in your business. And if it is not personal and individualized, if it is not serving you, if it is not kind and humane, then look at the other options that exist, because there's been so much movement in this space, and COVID is a gift that's badly wrapped. So
perfect. Thank you, everybody. I know we are on time, so I'll hand it back over to Holly, but to each and every one of our panel members, thank you for joining us, and to everyone who has dialed in today. We'd love to hear what you think, and keep talking to Holly and Carly and the team. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Gemma. What a fantastic panel. I really think, what we kept coming back to was the humanisation of digital. So I really appreciate each and every one of you had such great insights. Realise we don't have much time, so I'll just give a quick pitch to Women in Digital. Late last year, we announced that we'd be launching both the corporate and the individual memberships in 2020. So we launched our corporate memberships in February and launched our individual membership in March. There are so many cool perks and benefits that come along with the membership. Head over to womenindigital.org/membership for more information, or send us a message on Instagram or Facebook. We'd love to share more information. And if you use the code WELCOMEVIP, you get the first 3 months free. So again, thank you so much. We're looking forward to our next panel on The Juggle is Real, talking about the balance of motherhood, work, and I think a lot of the themes that we talked about here today will be sort of further expanded on in our next panel coming up in August. That's about it from me. Gemma, do you have any final words?
I do. I have one word, and that is love. And for everybody who may know or not know, this Saturday, Holly is getting married.
Yeah.
Holly and Matt are doing it in perfect digital style. What better fitting way for the founder and CEO of Women in Digital to have a digital wedding. And so Holly and Matt are walking down the aisle with a beautiful audience, broadcast via digital technology. So congratulations, all the very best from all of us.
Thank you so much. Beautiful flowers, thank you. I'll share photos. I'm sure they'll end up on social media if Carly has anything to do with it. Thanks, everyone. I'll end it here. Have a good day.
Bye. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks, Gemma. Bye, Holly. Bye, guys.